Hey toy fans, D21 Beast Rob here, continuing our look at the Marvel Legends X-Men series from Hasbro in 2016. Now before you, we've got a figure that I'm very curious to check out. We've got the brown and yellow Wolverine. This guy comes on a brand new body mold designed just for this figure, which we'll probably get in every possible costume variation moving forward. So I'm really hoping Hasbro's nailed it. As you can see, we've got a package similar to what we've had before. We've got the Build-A-Figure Juggernaut emblem in the upper left. We do have that same X logo on the top of the packaging. We've got a window box that does house the figure inside, as well as his accessories and Build-A-Figure piece. We've got the X-Men logo at the bottom, and the figure's name, Wolverine. Flipping this package around, we've got the Marvel Legends series logo in the upper left, and a bio for the figure in the upper right. It reads, virtually indestructible and always ready for a fight, Wolverine's specialty is sending bad guys running. Or as he so eloquently puts it, I'm the best there is at what I do. Haha, towards the center of this packaging, we do have a glamour shot of the figure inside, and we've got that Build-A-Figure Juggernaut emblem one more time. Then towards the bottom, there's a complete lineup of all the figures available in this wave, and there's an image of the fully assembled Juggernaut Build-A-Figure off to the left. Alright toy fans, let's not delay any further. Time to get this Claude Canuck out of the box and see what he's all about. Here we have Wolverine out of the package, toy fans, and I made a reference earlier to his catchphrase, I'm the best there is at what I do, but this Wolverine figure truly is the best there is at being a Wolverine figure. I'm a huge fan of the sculpt work on this figure. All of these pieces do appear to be brand new, and I've analyzed them quite a bit. The closest piece I could see that was reused per chance was the actual upper thigh piece of the Toys R Us exclusive Wolverine, and the musculature detail is very, very similar on both of the thighs, but they are actually sculpted just a little bit shorter on the newer figure than they were on the older figure. But other than that, everything about this Wolverine sculpting is pitch perfect. His legs are shorter where they need to be, his hips are shorter where they need to be, the arms are shorter where they need to be. Hasbro has just really nailed the scale with this figure. Muscularity and body proportions aside, there's also some great sculpted detail on the mask for this figure. As we pull him in closer, you'll see here, they've actually done something new with the mask. The last couple of masked Wolverines we've received have had kind of flat, floppy plastic bits on the side of his face. This Wolverine's actually got a fully sculpted mask piece, kind of like we saw back in the Toy Biz days, and I think it came out really great. The ears aren't too big, but they're also thick enough that they're not going to get damaged in storage, or even really damaged in the packaging before you get this guy out. The eyes are painted nicely for the most part. I do wish there was a little bit fuller white paint in the eyes, and I have seen some other Wolverines at retail where they kind of mess that up just a tad. So be mindful of that when you're shopping around for the figure. You may also see some paint slop around the nose. Fortunately, I think I've got a pretty good paint scheme on my Wolverine's head overall. But there's no sort of detail, I guess, on the chin, but whether it be stubble or hair on the arms, that's probably the one failing of this figure. Also, the belt is a separate piece, and I know that's not for everybody. I don't mind too much. It doesn't get in the way of articulation. I know some people would have preferred an X, but this does appear to be the brown-suited version of Wolverine as he first appeared in Uncanny X-Men number 139. I love the moment in the comic when Nightcrawler actually calls out Wolverine on his new costume choice, because he'd been wearing yellow up to that point. And when Nightcrawler asks, why the change, Wolverine? He simply says, why not? And why not, right guys? I mean, this is a pretty cool costume overall. This costume has certainly become quite iconic for the character. Also, painting-wise, I just want to highlight that my Wolverine's got a bit of a paint slop here on the torso. You may run into that as well, so definitely check the figure over carefully in store if you have multiple options. But man, look at all of that sculpted muscle detail on the front of the figure. Even on the back, I love the way that the trapezoids look on this figure. This Wolverine figure is quite the beefy little scrapper. Accessory-wise, this Wolverine figure is coming with the Build-A-Figure head for Juggernaut, and we'll look at that more in detail once I have that Build-A-Figure fully assembled. Wolverine also has some interchangeable hands. You'll see here that we do have these sort of fisted hands that actually have the old-fashioned claw nodules that used to be drawn on the back of Wolverine's hands in the 80s and in the early 90s, really before the X-Men films redefined where the claws actually emitted from his hands. But they actually plug in very easily into either socket on his wrist. They just pull out very easily. Now, it's worth noting that on my Wolverine figure, the right hand does tend to be just a little bit looser when it comes to pulling the hand out, so you may want to watch that. Possibly while posing, that might come out on you, but otherwise, they fit in the hand pretty nicely, and they do look very nice on the character. And for the most part, the silver paint has been applied quite cleanly to the back of these hands. Also, if you've got one of the more modern Hasbro Wolverine figures, you're probably familiar with the ability to actually pull and remove the claws from the hands, and you can do that much easier with this Wolverine figure than I think we've ever been able to do with any other Wolverine figure in the past. Now, the claws that actually come on this Wolverine figure, they're a bit white. I'm not a huge fan of that, but they do work and they do get the job done. But if you do have an older Wolverine figure, like say the Toys R Us version or one of the X-Force versions, you could definitely swap out one of the older claws from those figures and make your brown suit Wolverine's claws look, well, let's just say a little less plastic. Articulation-wise, this Wolverine figure is pretty amazing. He's got a head that'll bend down all the way and bend back all the way, great for lunging poses. That'll rotate all the way around. Now he does have a butterfly joint in his upper torso, similar to what we saw with the old Series 6 Wolverine, but I do feel like this one works just a little bit better as far as range of motion is concerned, and his arm will rotate all the way around at the shoulder. He's got an upper bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, a wrist that rotates all the way around, bends back that far and down that far. Instead of having that old Toy Biz joint that's been carried over, his diaphragm joint, they've actually finally updated it on this figure. He's actually got a hinge that actually bends forward quite nicely and bends back very nicely. For rotation here at the waist, the belt does not hinder that articulation. He's got a leg that'll bend forward pretty far, back pretty far, out from the body pretty decently, and rotates at the upper thigh, double jointed knees, and he's got a foot that'll bend forward that far, back that far, and he's got that great Hasbro ankle pivot. This is truly a phenomenal figure where articulation is concerned. In fact, since we've had so many Wolverines before, and because some of you may be wondering which one's the best, I say why don't we do an impromptu Wolverine pose-off? Okay, so that was fun. Now let's talk about height. This Wolverine figure does come in right around 5.5 inches tall. Height-wise, here he is compared to Cyclops from the Puck Build-A-Figure series, and I do think the height works really well for these two. Here he is compared to the love of his life, Jean Grey, both Toy Biz's effort and Hasbro's. Now, up until this new Hasbro Wolverine figure came out, my favorite Wolverine figure had been the Toy Biz X-Men Classics Tiger Stripe Wolverine, and that's mostly due to the height and the scale of the figure. Hasbro's effort is almost the exact same height, which I really appreciate. Obviously though, if we compare the two torsos, the brown Wolverine is actually bigger. In fact, while I'm still a huge fan of the yellow Wolverine figure from Toy Biz, I think Hasbro's effort is far and away the better figure. And I can't wait to see Hasbro repaint the brown Wolverine in the classic yellow colors. Come on, you know it's coming. Also, with this Wolverine having a ball-jointed head, which I didn't mention earlier, it'd be really nice to see the next Wolverine, the new Tiger Stripe version, have an interchangeable Logan head. And finally, here we have the brown and yellow Wolverine compared to the Toys R Us Marvel Legends Infinite series Wolverine from a few years ago. And as I've said in the past, this Wolverine figure looks great, but at 6 inches he's just too tall for a Wolverine figure. Sounds to me like you're yesterday's news, bub. Yeah, well, at least I can reach the light switch. Alright, toy fans, well that's my review of the Juggernaut Build-A-Figure X-Men Wave Wolverine figure released by Hasbro in 2016. Overall, this Wolverine is pretty amazing. He's got the perfect proportions, excellent posability, his claws are still removable. Really the only complaints I've got are that he's lacking some distinctive body hair, and he could have used an alternate head, but maybe we'll still get that down the line. It's not like I've made it any mystery, but this is a figure you definitely want to get your hands on. I just wish you good luck finding him on store shelves if you forgot to pre-order. Well, thanks for watching this review, toy fans. If you enjoyed my Wolverine pose-off, do me a big favor and give this video a big thumbs up. You can always keep up with me on Twitter and Instagram at D21Beast, and I'll see you guys next time.